Welcome, everyone, to our Week 12 2025 football season educational video series. We have completed Week 1 of the playoffs here in North Carolina and entering into Week 2. Got some great plays this week to take a look at and talk about. Hope everyone's season has been going great. Let's get into our plays for our Week 12 educational video series. Play number 1 this week, we have a first play of the game, kickoff. Now, I have the ball highlighted sitting here because I want to point something out. We go to our mechanics manual for the NFHS 5-person crew, and we go to page 136. It talks about our positioning and our responsibilities, and we go down to the back judge, and it states that the back judge should come on the field, check the legality of the kicking tee. Okay. Then it says, do not give the ball to the kicker until Team K has 11 players on the field, and remind the kicker not to kick the ball until the referee has sounded the whistle for the ready for play. Well, we don't have a back judge on the field currently, so the back judge can't do any of those duties. We've already come off the field and are already on the sideline, which is not the mechanics here. So let's make sure we stay on the field so that we can check the legality of the tee if needed. We can hand the ball to the kicker, make sure we have 11 because we're not going to let them kick off unless they have 11 on the field on a free kick here. And also give those instructions to the kicker. We can't give those instructions if we're not on the field to give the ball to the kicker. So let's follow those mechanics, and that way we can hopefully prevent any type of errors, mistakes, or early kickoffs. All right. The reason why we're really going to look at this play is we're going to talk about the requirement of Rule 6, which states at the time the ball is kicked, there has to be at least 4K players must be on each side of the kicker. Okay, we're going to see how we see this more common lately. More teams are doing this where they bunch together and they kick the ball off, kind of a bunch formation. So the official that's probably best to view this is the referee. That's not to say that another official couldn't potentially, put the marker down for it, but the official that's best going to see it, especially on this bunch, is probably the referee. Referees, you might want to try to line yourself up somewhat with the center of the ball, maybe just some guidance there to be able to see it. Now, the question here is, how do we rule on this if it's close? The guidance that is currently being given in our local association is that if we are going to penalize this, be 100% certain that they do not have 4 on each side. Okay, be 100% sure that they do not have 4 on each side at the time of kickoff. That's the current guidance that's being given. So, challenging play to officiate, be alert for it when you see them bunched up like that. Think to yourself and get ready for this potential kickoff style to happen. Personally, I think there needs to be maybe potentially some adjustment to the rule here, maybe, but that's not in place. So we're going to officiate it as it happens. Just be ready for it. Second play this week is a punt play. We'll watch the play out. We'll see the action during the punt. You make your decisions. And then as we'll see here in a minute, I'll show you where the ball got spotted, which looks like it was spotted right there around the 34-yard line on this play. So let's come back and take a look at this play again. Let's go back to the previous spot. And you can see the line here I have brought the previous spot, which looks like to be the 42, 43-yard line. One thing I want to point out, as we are approaching the second week of playoffs, teams need to make sure that they line up legally. Our linemen here we need to ensure that they are breaking snapper's waistline with either their head or foot. I'm not saying they're not on this play from this angle, but it looks like they are setting somewhat back, potentially deep and potentially not. And I'm not, like I said, I'd like to be looking down the line of scrimmage to be sure, but be alert for this. And we need to appropriately put the marker down if they're not lining up correctly and breaking that snapper's waistline. All right, so our previous spot here is around the 42, 43-yard line on this play. We have the punt. We're going to see the ball go downfield, and we can see right here that we have the receiving team player give a fair catch. Back judge, that's your responsibility, the 5-person crew. be alert for that fair catch. But also on this play, we're going to see, we've already seen, is that we are going to have a K player, which is right here, come down and impede or interfere with the ability for the R player to catch the ball while it's still in the air. And we need to know how that K player got there, meaning did they get blocked or pushed into the R player? And in this situation, we can clearly see they did not. And right here, if you look closely on the K player's back left shoulder, the ball actually hits him. And you can see where he's in position, definitely interfering, impeding with the R player's ability to catch this ball. So we need a marker down for kick catch interference. And we need to know that because of enforcement, that penalty marker needs to be dropped on the yard line of the spot of the foul, or after the play, we move it to the correct spot of the foul, because that's it. That's one of the potential enforcement spots that we're going to talk about. We see the ball come off this player's shoulder here, right around the 29-yard line, it looks like, and it's going to rebound upfield where it's caught by another R player around the 34-yard line. But this is definitely what we call KCI, or kick catch interference, by this K player impeding the ability or interfering with the ability of the R player from catching the ball. Now, what we need to know is what are our enforcement potential spots, because with kick catch interference, we actually have three options, okay, for the receiving team. One is to accept the results of the play as we just saw it occur. The other one is to accept a 15-yard penalty from the previous spot and replay the down. So we'd go back to the previous spot, all the way back up here to the line of scrimmage, which was 42 or 43. Walk off our 15 yards and then replay fourth down. Or the third option is to accept an awarded fair catch after enforcement of a 15-yard penalty from the spot of the foul, which we talked about, which looks like right there around the 29-yard line. We walk off 15 yards. The receiving team maintains possession of the ball, and they will start their series of downs from that succeeding spot or that enforcement after the awarded fair catch. A couple other things to point out on this play. I want to make a point right here, 5-person crew. You can see this action of 2 players here going into the home side team's bench. This does make it challenging, especially in a 5-person crew, because the line judge, who would normally be looking out on the field of play, now has to be alert and aware for that in case anything occurs in there, of a potential foul or something, or, they continue in there and there's problems in that team bench. So that takes kind of the line judge having to focus on that. We also see here our umpire and our back judge are look like they're looking in the right direction where all the action is, and that is correct. Good job on them for focusing in their area of responsibility and where our players are at. But I want to point out these 2 players right here. They come into the focus of the right of the screen behind the umpire. Okay. Somebody's got to pick those 2 players up, potentially break them up if need be. That may be the head linesman. That may be the referee. We just need to be alert for kind of action like that and be ready to respond to it as appropriate to prevent it. Play 3 this week, we're going to have an extra point. We see the formation here where they're using that buttle huddle. A lot of teams use it. We're going to specifically talk about an editorial change this year, and take notice that our snapper on this play has his hands on the ball. And so the editorial change this year was Rule 725 that states once the snapper puts his hands on the ball, as in the video, players on the line of scrimmage and in between the ends are ineligible and remain ineligible. So this player right here, who's number 89 that I have highlighted, is on the ball. So this team is going to shift. And we know the snapper has his hands on the ball. So this player is basically what we'd say is locked in as being ineligible by position, even though he has an eligible number. Now, he shifts to an eligible position with an eligible number, but he's still ineligible by this editorial change. And so we need to talk about this in our pregame. We need to discuss how our crew is going to identify this and officiate this, because this is a play that will catch you off guard if they would run a fake. Now they go ahead and kick the extra point, but let's say they ran some type of a fake and this player went downfield. We would need to know, because the snapper had his hands on the ball, he was ineligible. It was basically locked in as being ineligible, even though he had an eligible number and an eligible position after the shift. So we need to be alert for this, because this is a play that will catch you off guard. And, after the game or whatever, you may think about it and go, hey, wait a minute, we missed that. So talk about it, discuss it, be prepared for it, be ready. And how are you going to officiate? How are you going to communicate that? And that way we can get this. If it happens in your game, we can be prepared and ready for it and not get caught off guard or unprepared for it. Play 4, we're going to look at mechanics. Specifically, we're going to look at mechanics of a line judge here on a pre-snap penalty. And I always love pointing out great mechanics, quality mechanics, because it's really something that we can all do. And when we do these types of mechanics, it really just makes that official stand out and look that much better. So work on your mechanics and have good at mechanics. Notice we have a pre-snap, flag out, stopping the clock, coming onto the field, hustling out to give the referee the information, shutting the play down. All good things here. Coming off the sideline, getting your flag out, the marker out in the ground, stopping the clock, 2 signals right here, 1, 2, hustling into the referee to communicate the penalty information to the referee. Great job all the way around. This is what makes you stand out as an official. So work on your mechanics, have good quality mechanics, and you'll look better on the field, and it will show. Play number 5 this week is going to be a kickoff play, and we're going to watch the play through. And you need to be familiar with Rule 6, specifically Section 1, Article 6 on this play. We have the kickoff, ball hits the ground, okay, recovers and advances. As we're going to see here, the ball gets spotted at 31. So my question is this the correct spot? There was no penalty enforcement, but is this the correct spot for K to initiate their 1st and 10 for their next series of downs? And so to know that, like I said, we have to be familiar with Rule 6. So let's break this play back down to see if this was the correct spot or not on this kickoff. All right, we come back to the beginning of this play. A couple things. First of all, we only know one player can be more than 5 yards behind the ball for K. That's the designated kicker. It must be the kicker. The other thing we talked about, have to have 4 players or more on each side of the kicker, minimum of 4. Okay. Now, the other point on a kickoff that we need to be aware of, and we have our official here on the 50-yard line, we need to know where that is, because the rule states, Rule 6, any K player may recover a free kick if it has touched the ground and goes beyond the plane of R's free kick line. The 2 requirements may occur in any order. So we come back to this play, and we have to have those 2 requirements. And we see right here, the ball hits the ground at about the 45. It has went beyond R's line. So the 2 elements have been met. Now, the other part of the rule states that if any K player recovers or catches a free kick, the ball becomes dead at the spot of that recovery. And as we continue to watch this play, we can see right here that our K player recovers it, and it's somewhere between the 43 and 44-yard line, depending on your judgment. So that's where the ball should be spotted. But as we already know from watching this play, the K player continues to advance the ball, and the ball ends up being spotted at the 31-yard line, which is a net of 12 yards approximately advancement. Couple points here. Be alert for this and be thinking this process through. The other thing here is our official that was on the 50-yard line could easily drop a beanbag at the spot of recovery in case you haven't processed, the advancement of the ball was not permitted by rule. That way, as you process it, we can always come back to the spot of recovery. But ideally, we would like to obviously make this dead ball immediately at the recovery of the spot by K on this play. So we would put the ball back at the 43, 44-yard line on this play, and it'd be K's ball, 1st and 10. Play 6, we're going to take a look at a kickoff, and we can see here that as a result of penalty enforcement, K is kicking off from the 30-yard line. So we're going to talk a little bit about positioning our mechanics to officiate this. So we already know that K is kicking off from the 30-yard line. So if you're K's coach, what would you kind of think about doing on a play like this because of where we're at? We know we're kicking off from the 30, and we know that ours line is the 20. So the ball has to travel 10 yards to the 20. Now, we know we're 30 yards away from the end zone or the pylon as we see here. So if you kick the ball into the end zone, it's a touchback, which comes to the 20. So we have to think kind of like what a coach would think like, because either way, he may end up with the ball at the 20 or R may end up with the ball at the 20 to a point. So how can we better coverage this play just based upon where we're kicking off from on the field? Little suggestion here. Let's take our officials, and instead of standing in our positions back, let's put 4 officials, 2 on K's line, 2 on R's line, move them up, anticipate a potential onside kick so that we have 4 officials being able to officiate the onside kick here, because the chances of the coach kicking it deep are probably low. It's more high probability, as he did here, kicking an onside kick for better coverage. Just a suggestion. Play 7, we're going to have a scrimmage play here, and our focus will be on the player that I've highlighted, the white out on the headlinesman side of the field. So then we're going to focus on the tackle made by the defensive player here, and we can see that the defensive player comes up, grabs his helmet, and pops his helmet up. So a couple things here. So first of all, we know by rule that once this player's helmet comes off, we want to shut the play down. And you'll see the umpire here stopping the clock and shutting the play down for safety. The other part here is Rule 9 states that if anyone grasps an opponent's face mask, edge of the helmet, opening, chin strap, tooth or mouth protector, any helmet opening, then it is a face mask. And he pops his helmet off right here. And we'll take a close-up look at this in a minute. So we should have a marker down on the field. We would be penalizing. In this case, pulling his helmet off would be 15-yard penalty from the end here of the run. So we, want to be alert of how this player's helmet come off also, because if we do not penalize this or get our marker down, then we know by Rule 2 that if a player's helmet comes off, that player must go off the field for a down. So that's why it's important that when we can get these face mask fouls, we can see here as we take a close-up look, we can clearly see that the defensive player on this play comes up and with his right hand grabs the backside of the helmet part, and then as they go down, he goes down to the field. You can see it pop his helmet off right here. And that would be a face mask 15-yard foul on this play. And if we penalize it, that would permit this offensive player to remain in the game because his helmet came off as a result of a foul. Now, if we do not get a penalty marker down, then this player would have to go out for one play because of his helmet coming off. So, when we can get these fouls, we want to get them so that player doesn't get penalized for having to sit out one play. Plus, we also want to get the face mask in this situation, popping the helmet off. Good shutdown of the play here by the umpire. Play 8, we don't get the beginning of the play, but we pick it up right here where we see the umpire putting a marker down for what turns out to be a false start on the offense. But we're going to talk about enforcement. We're going to talk about the penalty enforcement procedures, and we're going to talk about the down marker and the head linesman, how key they are on penalty enforcement on all plays. And so as we look across the field here, as the umpire is communicating to the referee our penalty enforcement, we can see our head linesman and the down marker where we were going to snap the ball from. And so we know by false start, we're going to walk off a 5-yard penalty from that spot. So we see our referee giving the signal, and then we'll come back to our head linesman and the down marker, and we're going to see that they move and enforce the penalty, walk it off prior to doing our proper procedure mechanics. And this is where we increase our chance of making an error or a mistake. So, head linesman, tell the person working the down marker, stay put, and you stay put. And right here, we're going to see the umpire stand up and he looked to his left, to the down marker, the head linesman. And he's looking to see the down marker at the spot he's going to enforce it from. And he's looking to see the head linesman there. Those are two things he's looking for so that he knows he's enforcing the penalty from the proper and correct spot to get the enforcement correct. And he does not see the down marker or the head linesman where they're supposed to be. They've already walked off the penalty. Rushing this is not going to aid us. It's only going to potentially hurt the crew by making an increased chance of having an error on the enforcement. Head linesman, stay put. Tell the down marker person, don't move until I instruct you to move and change if we're changing the down. So we can already see head linesman is at the spot, and so the umpire doesn't see what he's looking for there. Now, we'll see the umpire look back to the line judge side here. Then we'll see them enforce the penalty. And we do see the head linesman come back upfield and then walk off the penalty. But that is not the mechanics we want. It looks much cleaner if we wait. Now, when should the box person or the down marker move? Right here. When the umpire puts the ball on the ground after the enforcement of this penalty, that is when the head linesman should tell the down marker person, now move to our spot. That way we know our enforcement spot we were coming from, and we haven't moved that until we get the ball there. Follow these steps. Don't get in a hurry. That concludes our Week 12 educational video. Hope these plays were helpful. Hope they help you officiate your game. Thanks for taking the time to watch this week's video. Take care, everyone, and have a great rest of your season.